Yo, what is going on, everybody? It is Roush, and welcome to Season 6 of the Pokemon Speedruns Draft League. It's been a long while since I've done a Draft League video, and I kind of want to do a little recap over what I have forced y'all to have missed over the last year and a half, especially for those of you who haven't been involved in the league. Anyways, we'll go ahead and get into it. So, what? Oh, shoot. Okay, there we go. Huge mistake on my part, because I hosted Season 4 immediately after Season 3 finished. I believe it wasn't even a full week after the finals match of Season 3. Then I went ahead and got started with Season 4, and I was kind of burned out, but you know, I got a fun little rain squad here for a little bit. Like, I got off to a slow start. I drafted terribly, but then I swapped out, like, what did I have? I had Celesteela. I swapped out Celesteela, whatever my electric type was, and Mega Manectric, that's what it was. It was Celesteela, Mega Manectric, and something else. Maybe it was another dragon? And instead I got in Mega Swampert, Jolteon, and Primarina, who, in the grand scheme of things, were absolutely necessary in order for my team to really work. And once they arrived, then I sort of took off. So, I mean, it was kind of fun. I also got a ton of respect for Roserade after playing with it for a little more. As you can see, it was my runner-up MVP with 7 kills and 2 deaths and in 8 kills in 4 games. And yeah, I was really impressed with it. It was a lot of fun to use. But anyways, when it came time for playoffs, I got into semis thanks to a Specs Pelipper, but then got completely dominated by Sunrakasha, who ended up winning the entire event. He took over for Amoeba because Amoeba had to bow out halfway through the season, so Resident Bug Squad had to bow out. Now granted, he didn't try and do Bug Squad for this season, which I don't know if that had something to do with his decision or not. It doesn't matter. But anyways, P2 Esports was an interesting team for this season, as Ninja piloted a mono normal type team, and as you can see, he also got to semifinals, and I would have lost to him. I believe I would have solidly lost to him in the third place match if we had one, but we ended up not. And there were just overall, like, Season 4 wasn't necessarily enjoyable for everyone. It was rushed. There were a lot of problems with it. Anyways, Season 5 was much more normal, and it was right after Dexit. So this was the opening stages of Sword and Shield, and I rebranded to the Columbus Blue Joltiks from... Originally, I had been the Huntsville Houndoom for Season 1, and then for Season 2, I rebranded to the Huntsville Heatran, and then finally, in Season 5, I rebranded again, and now I'm known as the Columbus Blue Joltiks. And so, even though Dexit made drafting incredibly thin in terms of choices, I was actually able to get a pretty interesting, almost balanced team. It didn't have enough, like, passive recovery, so it ended up being more offensive than you would expect, but it was kind of interesting. It was a lot of fun, I'll be fair. But this season, along with, like, the limited draft pool, there were a ton of issues, and one of the things that we learned over the course of this season was that the move's stored power is incredibly strong, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that there weren't a lot of really good dark types, good bulky dark types that could take on the psychic types, and whoever could use stored power. But our old Baton Pass clause was incredibly flawed, because originally we allowed you to still pass one stat of any kind, as many boosts of that stat as you wanted. So, and a lot of this was my fault for really breaking this strategy. I abused the Dubwool having Cotton Guard defense boost with Baton Pass into something like either Jirachi or Claydol. Claydol got a lot of kills just based off of that strat alone. Claydol actually got a 5 KO sweep using doubles passing of Cotton Guard. So it ended up just being completely unfair. So we changed the baton pass clause, and you can no longer baton pass any boosts for this season. And yeah, so let's take a look at the playoff bracket. So what ended up happening was I went all the way to grand finals, and then I ran into Ninja, who had taken over for somebody else's team because Danish had to leave halfway through. So for the second consecutive season, we had somebody coming in, taking over somebody else's drafted team, and actually winning the season. So it was very interesting. Ninja just completely outplayed me for this match. But interesting to note is the North Florida Knights. So that's FN Crazy's team, and he had Mew. And after this season, we're actually banning Mew for this for season 6, just because almost the exact same reason for the baton pass nerf, because of stored power being an absolutely destructive move, and the fact that now all of a sudden we have TRs and TMs, so Mew's move pool it's just incredibly toxic at this point. There's no way to be able to prepare for it, because Mew can just be ran so many different ways that any potential check or counter that you think you can bring, there's no counter for it. Like, there's no way, because a Mew can literally do anything at this point. So anyways, Mew is now deleted, but let's go ahead and we're going to get ready to talk about Season 6. So as I said right before Season 5, I rebranded from the Huntsville Heatran to the Columbus Blue Joltiks, and shoutouts to Skelzer for making this logo. I absolutely love it. Now before I start talking about my draft, we did end up switching format for this season. So previously we ended up doing a tiers-based format, where every Mon was placed in a set from 1 to 5, and you had a set of rules that you had to abide by in order to create your full roster. It was pretty good for beginners, but with all the power creep that's going on, especially now that a lot of Mons are back because we're playing this after Crown Tundra has been released, so we have our draft mostly balanced for it. There's a couple of kinks here and there, but it's gonna happen. So we swapped out for the point system. So what that means is now each Mon is worth a certain number of points, as opposed to a certain number of tiers. So from here we have points 1 through 18, and you had 120 points in order to build your roster with. And it's led to some very interesting team comps, and I kind of like mine. So let's go ahead and talk about what I did with my 120 points. So as you can see, leading off we have Landorus Etherean. I was really impressed that this thing got all the way down to 9th pick, because I ended up getting the 9th draw from the lottery. And I gotta say, being in one of the middle slots of 16, so 8 or 9, are two of the worst slots that you can get in terms of drafts, because it's really difficult to get Mons of certain synergies, because you have to wait so long in between any two picks. So I was kind of iffy about the kind of team that I would be able to build, but I gotta say, getting Landorus right off the bat, I was ecstatic that it ended up not getting picked before me. So I already had an idea for what team style I wanted to create this time around, and I'll be honest, Landorus is the perfect glue pick for that style. It has solid resists, it has intimidate, solid support options, defog, knockoff, rocks, can be a setup sweeper with swords dance, rock polish, and use its great coverage options to sweep. Even that 105 special attack isn't too bad if I want to try and throw a sneaky coverage move on there. Don't worry, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I think I can use even a special attack to great avail. Or just pivot around and be an absolute nuisance thanks to Intimidate U-Turn. So yeah, Landalorian. The Landalorian is a really good mon to start a draft with because there's so many ways that you could build a team around it. But the team style that I am going to take on is going to be a Hail Veil team. So getting Alolan Ninetales was essential because I kinda thought that I wanted to do a Hail team. And I ended up drafting it probably a little earlier than I should have. I mean, it could have ended up down in the 3rd round, but I didn't expect it to make it back to me because, I'll be honest, 13 points out of 18 for Alolan Ninetales. I mean, it's not over or it's not undervalued, but it is at that value where people can take a look and say that it's a good pick. So I wanted to snap this thing up as soon as possible. So she's got a pretty good speed tier at base 109. She's able to outspeed the Musketeers and speed tie with, I believe, speed tie with Galvantula. I can't remember if Galvantula is 108 or 109. But regardless, like being able to outspeed the Musketeers as a fairy type is a very good attribute to have. And she's more than likely going to be team support from week to week because I could run Hail with Icy Rock for extra like longevity of the weather. I can run Veil with Light Clay in order to increase the longevity on that. Hypnosis, Roar, plenty of support options. So Alolan Ninetales is very nice to have. Also, note, your own defog will not clear your own screens. So Landorus defogging will not get rid of my Aurora Veil. And I did want to make sure before I took the Alolan Ninetales that was indeed the case, because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get a Rapid Spinner or not. But let's just say right now we have a very good base for a very nice hyper offense team, because Landorus can pivot around, especially if ice types want to come in and take Landorus, or try and chunk Landorus, or water types. Alolan Ninetales can come in and set up Veil on a lot of those type of moves, especially with her nice speed. So the next mon that I went and picked, I think this was kind of an awkward pick, but my initial thought for grabbing Alakazam was being immune to Hail, thanks to Magic Guard. Just in case I wanted to do Icy Rock variant and try and keep Hail up. But more importantly is the speed tier being 120. I just wanted Big Zam to be a revenge killer. Strong psychic type with a great special attack, the ability to guarantee like a focus sash if I wanted to. Or I could do Life Orb for extra power. It's got great coverage, and now comes with Nasty Plot this generation. So I thought that it was a good choice. So every good offense team does need a good solid breaker, and because I will probably end up using Landorus more of a support type for most weeks, I wanted to see what I could find in the middle tiers in order to fill that kind of slot on the team. Obstagoon was an absolute menace last year for FN Crazy alongside that Mew, and it might even be undervalued at 12 points. It's really powerful. Especially as a wall breaker. 3 great abilities in Reckless, Guts, and Defiant. It does get double edge for Reckless, so just in case you were wondering what I meant by that. Guts, Flame Orb, like immune to status in general. It's well, not immune, but gets powered up by status in general, so that's very nice. And Defiant means that you should be wary about trying to defog my screens away, because otherwise you'll be staring down a +2 Obstagoon. So you might want to be careful before you do any defogging against this squad and this team. So it makes it versatile enough to turn could-be checks into offense. And those defenses, they are not shabby at all. 93, 101, 95 is incredibly bulky, only augmented further by the fact that I'll have Aurora Veil up a lot of the time. So I'm looking forward to see how much destruction I can do with my Enforcer this season. So now at this time, I did have a little bit of a fairy resistance problem, but I also wanted to get a special cleaning option, because I expected Alakazam to be more of a revenge killer in most scenarios. So I took a trip back up to the higher tiers. As you can see, Bucephalon is worth 15 points. Now, don't get me wrong, this thing is not a fairy resist. Yes, but not even under Veil. Those defenses are pitiful, 53, 53, 79, almost like half as bulky as Obstagoon. So it's not quite that so far. In fact, nobody in the PSR Draft League has ever brought or even drafted Blacephalon, because normally it's in like Tier 1, because it's just way too powerful to be in Tier 2. But in Tier 1, it pretty much got snubbed by everything else up there, because it was just a little too powerful in order to drop down. It was just sort of this awkward thing. So, how much work it would be able to do in a draft format, it remains to be seen. Now, this is actually a Fairy Resist. One of the most powerful bullet punches in the game, I venture to say it's top 2, is on my side, and that should also help like ease the fear on Alolan Ninetales, because not having bullet punch, or not having to oppose bullet punch, is like, you know, wipe the sweat off your brow. Enter 4x steel weakness. So Metagross is also a steel resist. Unfortunately, it is still weak to fire, so it's not a perfect pivot off of Alolan Ninetales, but for the most part, like, Metagross does really well under Veil, especially because those defenses are really useful. Enough so that under Veil I could probably run a weakness policy set, so I could use Metagross either like an earlier mid-game Stealth Rocker, but also have sort of a cleaning option in the end. But most importantly, Metagross is a really good tank, so don't forget about that. Also, it gets Explosion, so, you know, don't sleep on Dr. Lobotnik. He can pretty much take out a Mon for free if he wants. So yes, like I just mentioned, I am fairly vulnerable to fire types, and up near the top, Tapu Fini is still available on the board. So now I can add temporary status immunity to my Pokemon in order to help facilitate even more powerful sweeps. That's sort of why I was putting a focus on Defiant Obstagoon with Veil up, because now with Misty Terrain, I can't get status because I'm on the ground. So I don't necessarily want to offset one of my best attributes by making it immune to status. So you do need to be careful of that, or I need to be careful of that for this season. But yeah, so Flip Turn is another thing that Tapu Fini got this generation in one of the DLCs. So she does add a little bit of momentum if I want to, and she's got a host of great support options: Haze, Taunt, Defog herself. Even though Defog does get rid of your own terrain, it doesn't get rid of your own screens. So Fini can shut down opposing setup. Like I said, an emergency defogger. It also poses the potential to be an offensive threat with Calm Mind. That base 95 special attack is nothing to turn and scoff at, especially because those defenses allow her to get set up on a lot of Pokemon, and being Water Fairy gives her a nice amount of resist, but more importantly, good offensive coverage with that dual stab. So you have to be careful, especially since one of those stabs is now Draining Kiss, so the Dark Saber can heal herself while she's dealing damage. So it's very nice combination. I thought it was a very nice team fit, especially since she's going to be my pivot on a lot of fire types, I believe, this season. So yeah, I do need to be careful, but the Dark Saber is going to be really good this season, I can already tell. Also, nickname is Dark Saber. You can't see it. Unfortunately, there's not really art of the shiny form, but it is black, so to me it looked like a Dark Saber to pair with the Landalorian. So at this point, I'm starting to run low on points, because I've got a pair of 15 pointers, I've got a pair of 13 pointers, 18 point landers, so I'm running low on points. But I did want a grass Pokemon, Not necessarily to make a fire, water, grass core, but potentially if need be. So looking down in the bottom tiers, I think it would pretty much came down to, with the amount of points that I had and I wanted to use, it came down to Gourgeist or Trevenant, since they're counterparts. But I thought Gourgeist would be a much better choice. This is a Pokemon that I've been long intrigued with, especially since it has the ability to switch forms and have different stat spreads, either more HP or more speed. So I thought it was very interesting, and I kind of want to see what I can do with that. It does have Shadow Sneak for last second priority, Leech Seed for pseudo hazing, and more importantly, Poltergeist is a new move, stupid powerful if you use it correctly. Your opponent does need to have an item in order for the move to not fail, and can also block rapid spins in case I feel like hazard stacking. I don't have spikes yet, but I am planning on picking up spikes because, you know, spikes is useful. And speaking of spikes, Blizzard Midbis. So this thing does get spikes. It gets Stealth Rock. It's Slush Rush. It does have other ability in Snow Cloak, but however, we've banned Snow Cloak and other evasion boosting abilities. So whenever this thing comes, it has to be Slush Rush. Otherwise, I have to take a forced loss, so I do need to be careful about that. So finally, with 3 rounds to go, well, 2 after this one, I get my first true Hail Abuser, and it's a physical sweeper. In terms of what it can do week to week is pretty much dependent on being in against Hail. It's not super powerful unless it gets a Swords Dance up, but when it does, it's got Iron Head, Earthquake, Rock Coverage, Triple Axle, Icicle Crash. Those moves are incredibly powerful, especially because if you get 3 hits of Triple Axle, it's essentially base 120 power, I think. 20, 40, 60, yeah, 120 power. So it's okay. Like I said, it does have spikes. It also gets Rapid Spin. So now I have a Rapid Spinner in case I want to keep my own hazards up on the other side. I could do like a last second Rapid Spin if Hail's gonna run out, or a last second spike if I feel like I'm gonna die. So, but I'm not sure if I'll have the chance to use those. But, yeah, you know, that's a low on Sand Slash. It's not the greatest thing in the world. That's why it's only worth 4 points. Next up, we have Hitmonchan. Possibly undervalued at 4 points. Not sure. I liked it because it's got priority options. It's got good attack. It's got good special defense. If I put it in under Veil, it gets even better. I could throw Bulk Up on it if I wanted to be a Bulk Up sort of sweeper, maybe. Possibly, I'm not sure. Does have Rapid Spin. There's not too much more to say about Jody Shelley here, so we're just gonna go ahead and move on. Last but certainly not least, we have Arctozolt. This was the mon that really made me want to try and get a Hail team, because with the Crown Tundra DLC, we have the ability Capsule Mark II, whatever that thing is. So all of these hidden abilities got released, including Slush Rush Arctozolt. And with Bolt Beam Stab coverage, offensively it's really good. The only problem is that speed is garbage, and in order to get Bolt Beak, Bolt Beak doubling the power, you need to be faster. So in order to get Arctozolt to do anything, you pretty much have to have it in under Hail. But those stats are pretty nice. The defensive typing is very bad. So I'm not entirely sure. We'll see what happens. If it does anything, it'll be on offense, because this thing is not necessarily a great hit taker. But though the other abilities aren't too bad either. Volt Absorb, I mean, I only have... do I just have the one Pokemon that's weak to... Yeah, I only have the one Pokemon that's weak to Electric anyway, so that might not be the most useful thing. But Static could be useful. You could Static a Pokemon and then be able to outspeed and Volt Beak it, even without a Hail being up. So, I mean, the stats aren't bad by any stretch of the imagination. 90, 90, 80 on the defenses. Under Veil, not too bad. But just that Frozen Fawful needs a little bit extra support to get his feet moving. Now, after the draft, I did a little bit of soul searching, and I ended up not liking Big Zam and Huge Hat, the Alakazam and the Blacephalon, in a vacuum as much as I originally thought. Volcarona was left undrafted, which is almost a travesty. So I decided to go ahead and swap them out and pick up Volcarona for one of the team slots, because under Aurora Veil, I can almost guarantee you that this Pokemon is going to be an absolute beast. I do need to be careful of rock coverage, but under Veil, that does offset a lot of the weakness, and a solid HP stat is very good as well. But Volcarona, Quiver Dancing, under Aurora Veil is really stupid powerful. So it was just a little too good to pass up. Especially because I have two amazing defoggers to help keep Stealth Rocks off the field, so I don't have to run heavy-duty boots every week if I feel like I have a good chance of keeping hazards off the field. So Quiver Dance, Danger Dance is one of the scariest special cleaners in all of Pokemondom, and now I'm boosting its defenses at the same time, so you better watch out, because he's coming for you. Now, with the remaining 14 points I had left, I decided to use 13 of them, and so this is going to be the triumphant return of I'm the Raikou. He was originally drafted by Parahax, that's why he had a pick number, but he dropped Raikou to pick up some cap space and grab another Pokemon. I think he dropped Raikou and something else and drafted up, like use more points. But, I mean, that's perfect for me, because having another great speedy special attacker, having more instant speed, is going to be really nice. Raikou might not have Hidden Power Ice anymore, but with the Nature Changer Mints, Raikou can now carry a lot of its coverage options, which previously had to be Rash Nature only, can now be ran on Timid or Modest sets, should I choose so. And plus, Aurora Veil augments its already very nice defenses, along with the fact that it's only weak to ground moves. It does get Magnet Rise, so watch out. 90 base HP, 75 defense, 100 base special defense gets boosted up tremendously by Aurora Veil. So a Calm Mind Raikou set is now more viable than ever. And I used Ein to great success. It got, 17 or 18 kills back in Season 2. So it's kind of nice to see my boy return home. So yeah, this should be a very interesting season. This is the roster going into Week 1. We will be in the Sinnoh division this year. We're playing with Amaranth, who was formerly known as Ninja, but we're going to call him Amaranth from here on out because that's what he wants to be called. Prince, who's new to the league, but he says he's got some draft experience. And Warston, who has no drafting experience, but he also says he's got some battling experience. He's, Sun Rakasha's brother, that's right. So he's Sun Rakasha's brother, so we have family matters coming in this time around. We'll see how that plays out, how this division plays out starting this week. Schedule, I'll actually post the schedule in my first Team Builder video. I should have done that in this one, but you know what? We're not going to bother with that. So our first match is actually going to be against Enrico and the Long Island Landorus, and it's a team that I'm honestly kind of scared of. I'll go into further detail with my own team preview coming up later on this week, and then the match to follow. So I will see you later. Roush is out. Peace.